The start of a new year is a perfect time for us to reflect and hit the reset button on a lot of things in our lives. For some of us, that looks like hitting the reset button on our finances, especially after the last few years that we've had. You've done some reflecting and you've come to the realization, I need to get my finances in order. But then the question rises is, how exactly do I get my finances in order? Well, in this video, I'm gonna go through 5 steps that you can take starting today in order to get your finances to be where you want it to be. But before we get into any of that, what's going on, people? It's your boy Kalechi back with another video. If this is your first time around these parts, hit that subscribe button. If you enjoy anything that we talk about on this video, hit that like button. But let's get this show started, alright? The first thing that each and every single one of us can do starting right now in order to take our finances and make it where we want it to be is we can begin by tracking our expenses and making a budget. I know. You've heard this all before. It's nothing new. People tell you all the time, make a budget, track your expenses. But the reason why they share it so much is it's the truth. It's the first step in order for you to actually get a handle on your finances. You have to understand what is coming into your bank account and what is going out of your bank account. If you don't understand this, you cannot make decisions. You cannot make plans. You cannot make adjustments for your money. You cannot get a handle on your finances. There's a quote that goes, "We must not fool ourselves because we are the greatest fools." And so the question I have for every single person who has tried tracking my expenses and making a budget and it just seems to not work is, did we actually do it though? Or did we play like we were doing it? I remember the first time that I downloaded the Mint app and started tracking my expenses. All I did was track it. I didn't actually make a budget or put a plan in place. So the first thing you gotta do is take some time, get all your bank statements, get all your credit card statements, put it on a table and go through line by line with every single expense. You got to figure out, what is my income that is coming in? How much money do I make every single month? Write that down. And then go through line by line for each expense statement, creating different categories, whether it's things like your rent, your utilities, your transportation, the amount that you spend on food for groceries, and then the amount that you spend on restaurants, the amount you spend on gas, the amount you spend on your insurance, the amount you spend on streaming, the amount you spend on buying clothes. Write all of that stuff down so that you understand how much money is coming in and how much money is going out. Because this will enable you and empower you to be able to make decisions concerning your life. If you don't do this, it's like my dad always says, before you go on a trip, first you gotta know where you are. And if you don't know where you are, you're already lost. And once you have that stuff down, and you make a budget, and you actually use the budget, then you can move to step number 2. Really, step number 2 and number 3, because they're kind of together. And that is for you to have an emergency fund and to pay off all high interest debts. So there's a guy named Murphy. People don't really like having him around because he likes to show up at the worst possible time. And every time he shows up, things always just go wrong. Nobody likes him, but yet he is in every single one of our lives. If you don't know what I'm talking about Murphy's Law, which states what can go wrong will go wrong. And usually it goes wrong at the most inopportune times in our lives. So how do we adjust to Murphy to make sure that Murphy doesn't derail us? This is where your emergency fund comes in. We need a lump sum of cash that just sits in some account, that just sits in some savings account that we do not touch unless Murphy shows up. And then we can handle those situations. Because in order for us to progress, we need something to be our foundation, something we can always fall back to so we can springboard and take the next step. But this goes hand in hand with the next step, which is paying off your high interest debts, especially things like credit cards. We're looking at you, man. We're looking at all those credit cards. We're looking at auto loans. We're looking at personal loans. So then how much money should you have in an emergency fund? Well, it's going to depend from person to person. I generally advise that most people start off with having at least $1,000 to $2,000 when you start off and as you're paying off all your debts. But then once you're done with paying off, especially your credit cards, then you can increase that up to be 3 to 6 months of expenses, depending on how you like to live your life. In other words, you got to go back to step number 1 to figure out how much are you spending every single month and how much minimum do you need to survive for a 3 to 6 month period. And now we can move on to step number 4. This is the one that everybody loves talking about. This is the one that you see everywhere on Twitter, that you see everywhere on YouTube, that you see on Instagram, that you see on TikTok. What am I talking about? Talking about investing. But not exactly in the way that most people like to think about it. At this stage, I'm not talking about you becoming the next Warren Buffett, the greatest stock picker of all time. We're talking about you investing in passively managed, low-cost index funds that just tracks the broad market. Tracks things like the S&P 500 or just the total market at large, using things like VOO, VTI, or VSUX, which are different types of ETFs that just track the market. This is you just becoming part of the global wealth that is being created each and every single day. Using things like your retirement accounts. If you work somewhere that offers you a 401k where your company is going to match you up to a certain percent, it's using those accounts. Or maybe you actually opening your own individual retirement account, preferably a Roth IRA. So it's now time for you to start figuring out what is the hot stocks. It's just time for you to create automatic investing plan for yourself, where every single month, a certain amount of money goes into that account and gets invested on your behalf. But then after you've done all 4 of these steps, there is an actual 5th step in order for you to get to the goal of creating abundant wealth for yourself. As you go through steps 1 through 4, you're going to come to a realization of something. Either 1, man, I make a lot of money and I just waste it. Or 2, damn, I need to find a new way to make some more money. And that's where step 5 comes in, which is creating new sources of income. Now, this does not look like you going out there and getting more and more and more jobs, but it might be you finding a way to create a side hustle that you actually enjoy doing in your free time. For example, I like to ref soccer games and field manage in my free time. It doesn't feel like work. I'm just out there for a few hours and it creates a nice little room for a nice little extra income to come in my pocket, where I'm able to make about $400 to $500 every single month just for being out on the field doing something that I would be doing anyway. This YouTube channel is another possible source of income, even though it has generated nothing so far, but it is something that hopefully generates something moving down the line. The point is, it's not for you to create the world's biggest business as a side hustle, but for you to create another avenue for you to bring some income into your pocket so that you can have some extra money in your pocket, whether you want to invest that money or maybe it just frees up a little bit more room in your budget. And so these are the 5 steps that every single one of us can take starting today in order to make our finances much better in 2022 than they've ever been in the past. But I got 2 bonus ones for y'all. Bonus step number 1. It doesn't necessarily fall into any of the category listed before, but it is for you to give. Giving does something for us mentally where we don't see money as the end in and of itself, but we see it as a means to an end. Because remember, money is just a tool. It is not the be all end all. And then bonus step number 2, always be learning. Always take time to develop new skills. Take time to develop new attributes. Take time to develop new ways of understanding your money. New ways of understanding how to go further distance. New ways of learning how to invest better. New ways of just becoming more financially literate. And doing these things, doing all the steps. Steps 1, which was tracking your expenses and making a budget. Step 2, which was paying off your high interest debts. Step 3, which was getting an emergency fund, starting with at least $1,000 and then building that up to be 3 to 6 months of your expenses. Step 4, investing passively through low cost index funds. And then step 5, which is finding new avenues and new ways to bring in some more income. If you do these things, I can guarantee you that your financial situation is going to look 1,000% better than you can even imagine right now. But anyway, that's all I got for y'all. I hope y'all learned 1, maybe 2 things out of this entire thing. And if you did, share this episode with one person that you love, one person you hate, and one person you're just kind of like, about. And by that time, you'd have shared with every single person that you know. And also hit that like button. But I'm gonna catch y'all up on the next one. Remember, generosity is always greater than greed. God bless each and every single one of y'all, and I'm out. Peace.